Well, hey there, friends. Thank you for coming back for part 3 of our social dilemma panel discussion. I think you're really going to like how we close out this series. So let's tune in. What about regulation? Do you think social media should be regulated?
Depends on who's regulating.
Yeah,
you nailed it, Sandy.
Good question.
I actually wrote that down. I go, who gets to regulate? That's the big question.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, okay. So then let me ask this question first, and then we'll go the other way is, do you think social media platforms can self-regulate? Do you think that's even something that they're capable of?
Here's what I think. I think the answer is no, because I think the code of ethics is different for every organization and every individual. And without something that is standardized for integrity, honesty, the genuine concern for the broad public as a whole, I don't think you can do that.
No.
I think especially right now in the United States, everything is so divided politically, and there's no middle road. Everything is an extreme. And we have so many extremists that, and this is around the world too. It's not just in the US, but I personally, I just don't see how they would ever come to an agreement. And I don't think they could do it so that Instagram had one code of ethics, Facebook had another. I think it has to be a general consensus. And I don't think that they could come to that.
Because we as people can't come to that.
Right.
Like we can't all agree on what is something that we should all consume. What is something that we should all get rid of? Like if we could say, hey, let's get rid of the negativity in the world, like life would be great, but nobody's going to agree to that.
We wouldn't have social media platforms.
Right. Yeah, there's always going to be good and evil. So, as long as there's good and evil in the world, we don't have control over that. And there's always, if you think about it, even in churches, there has been, dysfunction and evilness and hate and war and turmoil. If that's happening in, religious organizations, it's going to happen in social organizations. So how do you regulate the people and, one person or two people not wanting total control and total influence over every decision that's made? It's just the natural course of human nature.
But we're seeing it.
Yeah.
We are seeing them, like Facebook is a business. They can make their rules. You know what I'm saying? And we're watching them censor, take away our freedom of speech. We're watching them doing this. So they are doing it. Just like, in Costco, you can't go to Costco without a membership. That's their rule. They can change that tomorrow if they wanted to. So Facebook, if they wanted to show something or not, I'm saying? They are regulating what's being shown to us. And sadly, it's their business that we have to kind of play along with. If it was our platform, then we could make the rules, right? So, but honestly, I'm seeing it. I just see them, regulating their own platform, and although again, without integrity, in my opinion.
I was thinking more in terms of like regulation, like government regulation and rules and things like, more versus like individual platforms censoring. I think censorship is different than regulate. I don't know.
Well, self-regulation.
We're saying the same thing. We're just looking at it from
differently.
But that's the beauty in it, right? We're all going to look at this differently.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I think that's why this platform right here with us coming together, sharing the different opinions is so powerful because, this can connect with somebody and it can also be like, oh no, what I would have said this, right? And so it's like also stimulating the mind of every single person that's listening to this right now.
Well, yeah. And for them to think for themselves and have their own thoughts about these instead of having it spoon-fed again. So with Instagram, and this is so timely, the fact that this happened, that Instagram took away the hashtags prior to the election. I'm not even really sure. They said after the election, so I'm not even sure when they're coming back. So is that...
Because when's that going to be over?
Exactly right. Exactly right. So is that self-regulation or is that manipulation? Like, how do you see that whole thing? Like, what is that?
It's control. It's
control.
And I think it's a combination of censorship, control, regulation. I guess when I think of regulation, I think of more of, setting up standards that are ultimately protecting other people. And I'm not sure that any of these organizations are doing anything to protect the individual.
No.
Well, I think they are because they have their community regulations or their community roles that you have to abide by. But you know, and then if you don't, you get shadow banned or whatever. So I think that's their attempt to do that, but I don't know that they're effective in it.
So I think my thing with that is how like it affects in so many different ways of really bringing in more negativity, in my opinion, right? Because now people are stressing about it. There's so much negative energy. And Mel, I'd love to hear your opinion on this because this isn't happening in Canada, right? So like, it's not, it's like normal time. Whereas we're all over here like, oh, stressed out and what's going to happen. And, you know, the negativity of not being able to engage in these ways that have been, you know, available to us and feeling censored. What does it look like to the rest of the world that, you know, we're all in this energy?
I haven't looked into it. I didn't post today. I haven't been posted since this thing was announced. So I have no clue if it's been affecting us or not. And I mean, I don't want to get into the whole election thing, but for sure, it's so crazy for us because I mean, we're neighbors, right? We're like connected to you guys. And so it even, I mean, it's all over our news too, the whole thing, right? So we are getting fed with facts and not so much facts about what's going on, you know, with your election. So for sure, it's affecting us in a way, but I'm not too sure about how the actual hashtags are affecting other countries.
You know, something to think about. Oh, sorry, Sandie, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I was just going to say that I've read some comments and quite a few Canadians are still seeing the hashtags normals, top posts, recent posts. They're still seeing it. Whereas we just get to see whatever they want us to see.
And putting time out.
But I would be curious because, you know, the Senate hearings were this week for Facebook, for Mark Zuckerberg and the likes. And I wonder if, you know, had they not been called out and, you know, censoring information and, you know, only distributing certain types of information versus being fair across the board, I wonder if this wouldn't be different today. We wouldn't even be having the conversation about hashtags today.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Timing is interesting.
Oh, the timing is always interesting.
Yeah.
Around election.
But I mean, around the whole, like, you know, the lawsuit with the social media designers and everything.
So crazy.
It is crazy. So let's talk about kids for a minute, because this is just something, I don't know. Depression, anxiety, and social anxiety is growing at an alarming rate, especially among that Gen Z population. And like I mentioned before, they're that one population that social media, that they've literally grown up with, you know, since infancy. It was there when they were born. Do you think that social media has a big role in this, that's the reason why all of these anxiety issues and depression is coming to the forefront? What are your thoughts on that?
Totally.
Absolutely.
Okay. And why do you say that?
I mean, I see that I have two boys, and granted, they are not on, they're 13 and almost 16. They don't have Facebook. They don't have Snapchat. They don't have Instagram. But the only thing that they do have is YouTube. And I think these kids who have grown up with social media, fast technology, it is almost their primary, almost their sole way of connection and immediate gratification. Immediate. It's in their face. They can't get enough of it. They need more of it. And I see it in my boys, their obsession with being on YouTube to see the next video, onto the next video, onto the next video. And the minute it's, you know, I tell them, oh, put it away, we're done. It is this lost blank look on their face and they just don't know what to do with themselves because I took away their primary source of connection. It's gone.
Yeah.
So that's what I see the problem with, because I think with us, we have an awareness. We know that social media is a problem and we know what to do with it because guess what? We didn't have technology when we grew up.
Right.
You know, we love telling our kids those stories and they just look at us with this blank face and whatever, you know, but we know how to communicate We know how to do that. We know how to pick up the phone and have a conversation and go in line at Target and strike up a conversation with the mom in front of me. I have no problem doing that. But you don't see younger kids or, young in their 20s and teens doing that, because I don't think they're taught how to do it, because online is their primary source of connection. And to me, that's really sad.
It's very sad. That's so true, Allison, about that. The fact that my kid, the thing is too, here's the thing, they are communicating in their own way. They're texting, they're commenting, their communication is much different than our communication. But like you said, they have been taught a whole different way of communicating. Like my son, he's going to be 18 years old. He doesn't want to make a phone call. He doesn't, when he was like 14, he didn't want to order his food at the restaurant we were sitting at. He asked me to order his food. He doesn't want to talk to someone. And, now granted, he's working now, and now he has to actually speak and take orders from other people. Thank God. But, at the same time, it's just craziness to me that I want to know where I taught him that. You know what I'm saying? I guess it wasn't me, because, I'm a talker. So why isn't this kid, being able to carry a conversation, or even just want, like you said, initiate that conversation in Target and express his feelings, if someone says, oh my gosh, it's really hot in here. Well, yeah, it is. Well, he just ignores them.
Well, they're surely not talking to me.
Why would someone speak to me?
That it's such a good point. And one thing, and for anyone listening who has younger children, the one thing we always did was, and maybe it's because my oldest always had social anxiety, so we almost had to force issues, force him to do things so that he could grow to be more comfortable with them. But there's simple little things that you can do to encourage them to continue to have conversation. And it's pick up the phone and call grandma, order your own meal. I call for the carryout order. And, I've made my kids do those things so that they could get those skills, because they're too dependent on using text. And it's so incredibly dangerous, because we never know how things are going to be perceived when they're in writing. And especially there's so much risk. And I am like the queen of typos, because I, even in my Instagram comments, constantly misspell or miss a word, whatever. So there's so many misunderstandings that then cause animosity and the loss of friendships or anger or someone talking about someone else. And it's a downward spiral unless we teach them. And as parents, I think that's our role. We have that responsibility to, somehow have them step away and use conversation verbally versus constantly in writing through text or just social media.
I totally agree.
So
it's that human connection. I think that's what's lost.
Yeah.
Is human connection.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens with, say, the divorce rate as our children start to get married and their friends start to get married. And because they haven't had to have those one-on-one or those personal contact, relationship building skills that we had.
And it's even worse now with COVID. Sorry, I don't want to bring that subject. My kids in school, my son was like, I can't talk to my friends. We have to sit at the exact same desk all day long, and my friends are sitting over there, and then there's no way he's going to talk to the kids around him because he doesn't know them. So he's sitting 8 hours straight, listening to the teachers, not talking to anyone. And then he doesn't take the bus because I have to pick him up. So he doesn't have any interaction whatsoever. And my kids are struggling with that because they're lonely. And then they get onto their Xbox playing with their friends online. They're not interacting with anyone right now. And it's actually and we can't the way that things are for us in Canada, we can't visit anyone either. So there's barely any personal connection, and it's sad.
Yeah.
It's
So I'm really interested in Sierra's perspective because you have little ones, like little ones who don't have accounts yet because they're infant and toddler. So like, how does this all play out for you and your kids? I'm just interested. How do you approach it?
So it's really funny that you say that because as you mentioned, like not having a toddler account, I've actually had people ask me if I'm going to create one for my son because like, oh, he's so adorable. I love seeing pictures of him. And I'm like, why would I want my 2-year-old to have an account? But they're out there, right? Like you can go and search like so-and-so's baby. And so it's really interesting you bring that up. But so the first thing I want to say before I get into that is the other thing about like how anxiety affects our kids is also how we are showing up because they see us, right? So like when they don't want to talk to us because, you know, we're on our phone and they think we're not listening, or when that's the energy around, like that also, I think, brings in the anxiety for them. So as Robyn was saying, the responsibility we have of controlling our own, you know, boundaries around social media can really affect their anxiety as well. But one of the things that my husband and I have talked about is setting, like, we have no phones near us at dinner, right? And so like, there's like that strict boundary. We don't bring phones into the bedroom. There's that strict boundary. Not for any crazy reasons, but just because we don't want to sleep with that energy. But, no, like, so we want our kids to see this. And so my son is 2. And so he really picks up on it, right? Like he knows that I listen to music, right? I always get in a high vibe before I get him a call. And so he wants to be there and he wants to be in that space. And he wants to, you know, my phone means music. Like that's what his brain has already done. He's 2. And it's scary to think about, you know, I got my first phone at 11, right? Thinking about it, like that's when I did because my parents were divorced and my parents wanted to be able to talk to me when I was at a different house. And so it's like one of my friend's sons, he's 6 and he already has a phone and he can call his dad and talk. And it's like, what is the proper, right? Like the new normal, so to speak, of when's a good time to introduce them? Because I think it's always going to be there, right? Like I can't ever be like, okay, I'm going to keep you safe forever and protected from this energy. And I think at the main point, I wouldn't want to because, you know, then they're going to be like hit in the face with it when it does come to them. And we always try and rebel. That's the other thing, I think. When we're told no, there's a rebellious nature. But no, there's a fear around how am I going to introduce it in a way that doesn't bring in stress. And I mean, for me, that's like really the energies around it and the energetics. But I think it's definitely something that we all kind of have to think about different ways to do that.
Good. So I wonder if you guys would be up for this, just doing like one parental piece of advice you would give to our listeners, like just from your perspective. Does anybody want to start? Like, what's the one thing, if you were to do different with your kids about social media, or if you were to give them some sort of advice, what would that be? I would
say start creating good habits. That social media should be more of a reward and a secondary source of entertainment, not the primary.
That's good.
You know, because now I'm trying to get the kids, I just told my boys, starting on Sundays, nobody is on social media. And that includes my husband and I. There's no YouTube, no nothing. I go, but we can do other things. We can play board games. Hey, how about that? Like, you know, we can watch a movie together. We can cook. We can do whatever. So I think it's creating better habits as a family, as a nuclear family, because I think that's also what's getting destroyed in the world is this nucleus of a good family. It's up to us as parents to keep hold of that and make that a priority. And social media is secondary. It's on the back burner and it's more of a reward than anything.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah.
Mel,
I think I would say awareness, like education / awareness, like meaning, you know, that documentary, watch it with your kids. If your kids are a little older, like they're smart and they understand things. So I think it's just a matter of educating them because a lot of kids, and I mean, even us, we don't necessarily understand everything, like how it works and why it works that way. So just educating them, I think, would be good. And of course, boundaries. setting boundaries.
Sandie,
being that
do you have any?
role model, because we get sucked into this too, as we all know. We're all sucked in here. We have that little bit of the addiction. Should I say little? But if we are those great role models with boundaries, that definitely, of course, played in with Mel's suggestion and Allison's and all of our suggestions, but really being that role model, setting those boundaries for ourselves and for our families.
I think that it's about showing the positive side of it too, like not necessarily just, clearing it for yourself or saying, okay, well, just, keep the boundaries from like going inward and turning it off, right? But also when you are on, bringing the idea of like there's positivity here, right? Social media can be a really beautiful place. It can be a really powerful place, and getting them to be a part of that, even if, for instance, one of my friends, she shares a message from social media every single day. She sends it through a text to her son when they wake up. So like one of those like positive affirmation things, it's like there's beauty in this if you choose to put that energy forward. So doing that, something like that, to bring that more, around in their space.
Robyn, do you have any advice you would give to parents about social media?
I'm going to kind of loop everybody's together, really, because as I was listening to everyone, I was thinking, well, that is something I would say. But number one, I would say from the time your kids are little, have family game night. Encourage them to read, instill that love of reading early on, and then those family game nights, like still when my boys come home from college, that's something we enjoy doing together. They're all avid readers. So if their phone is broken or there's some reason, they're grounded and I take the phone away, whatever, there's something else that they can do. And there's another source of inspiration for them. So those are two big things. I agree completely with Allison and the keeping the nuclear family together and in focus so that you have that constant communication. They're coming to you when they need advice. They're not going to their phone to seek advice. That's a really big one. And then I would also say waiting till the last possible minute to give them a phone. And when you give them a phone, test their responsibility level with the phone before giving them the access to social media so that you can understand and monitor, their texting habits and how they're using their phone in a way of communicating with you before giving them the access to all the social media and all those external stimulus and risk factors.
Okay. Those are really good. Those are really good. So now I kind of want to turn to us as content creators and just think about, how this all affects us. So like we have ranks and numbers and engagement percentages and all this stuff. Is that your friend? Is it your foe? Does it push you to actually make better content, or is it pushing you in that comparison mode? Like where are we in that? Like where's your head with all of that stuff?
I'm probably the least into any of that stuff. And I don't know if it is my age. I don't know if I am just so stinking stubborn that I absolutely refuse to dive into all of that. But I figure that this is an avenue to build relationships, make connections, referral sources, grow my podcast, grow my audience. But I just have not put an emphasis on any of that. Now, could my numbers, could I have more followers? Could I be getting clients from Instagram? Maybe. But if I were to focus that much energy on social media and those numbers, I would lose my mind. I would say something else, but
well, and I think it all goes back to your
metrics. I have to keep myself sane so I don't do it. But I respect all of you who do and who educate other people on it because I think it's fascinating. But I have had to restrict myself.
Well, I think you brought up a good point about vanity metrics. If you're looking at it just to see how popular you are, you're not getting on social media with the right purpose. The only reason I look at my insights on Instagram is just to see what content my audience is craving. Great. That's what they like. I'll produce more of it. That's it. Yeah. That's all I look at. I don't care about number of followers or how many people I'm losing or percentage rates. It doesn't influence me because I'm not going to get trapped into popularity. Right. I'm there with a purpose to serve my audience. And I think that as content creators, as coaches, developers on the social media platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, we're there with the purpose to, again, help people, And that needs to be our primary focus, not our vanity metrics. Because now if we are getting sucked into vanity metrics, then I think we are moving into big tech, just like and now we're starting to look at our followers as products. And I think that's a problem. We need to go back to people.
Exactly. Now, like both Lora and I manage social media accounts for other people. So we have that, for myself, I'm like you guys, the vanity metrics, it doesn't matter to me, like, I don't care, I definitely care about, the content that I'm putting out that's going to attract the right person to me so that I can help them. But then when I have my client, I've got to show them the ROI. I've got to show them what's happening. So I am my foot's still in there because I need to be for my business. But outside of that, for me personally, I don't get sucked into it either. But then again, I've got to balance that out, and that is a little tough.
Sierra, did you have something?
Yeah. So one thing, I think this is all really great because it brings back the idea of the intention that you're showing up with, right? Like centering back on that, it's been a theme throughout this whole, episode is like, what is your intention for how you're doing it? And so the insights and your analytics, I love them. Like it lights me up to look at them, and not in a way of like, oh, wow, I got a new follower. I'm growing. I'm popular. Oh, I got this many likes, right? But wow, I was able to reach this many people and impact this many people, right? One of my favorite things is when somebody's like, I need to grow my following because I don't have enough people, right? I'm not reaching enough. And it's like, okay, so you're reaching 15 people on a post. Those are 15 lives that you're impacting. Those are 15 people that get to see your message that you can help change. And so insights, I think, are really powerful when you shift the normal mentality of like the actual metric and shift it into, what impact are you creating? Because that's what social media can really bring. It can bring the intention and the impact of your true message and your, soul's purpose for having a business or showing up.
Yeah.
Mel, Robyn?
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, I agree with Robyn. Like, I'm not the one who checks my analytics very much. I focus on creating content and making connections. Like, if you ask me how many followers I have, I couldn't tell you.
I don't even know either.
I love the perspective that Sierra gave. I think it's so much more powerful when you shift your mindset around anything, really. But
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a good point. But I'm in the same trap as Sandie is, because your clients hire you for results. And if you're not results oriented and you don't get those for those people, they're going to be like, why am I paying you anyway? You know what I mean? So you're constantly challenging yourself to create the content that is going to perform for your audience. And it's a fine line to walk, and it's a hard one too. So if we're working with our clients and stuff, what would we do, or how would we coach them so they don't fall into the social dilemma? So they're not, run by the numbers. So they're not in that comparison trap. What would you say to your clients? How would you coach them?
So the one thing I would say here is the results, like you're talking about you and Sandie, as a social media manager, the results isn't necessarily, you got this many likes, right? The main results is you got this many, sales, you got this many new clients, like you were able to bring this many people into your business. So thinking about it as, coaching other people or sharing, this knowledge with your listeners is, what is your intention and the result that you're desiring? What's the outcome, right? Because the outcome's not, you can have 10,000 followers. It doesn't matter if you're making $0. You don't really have a business, right? You can have, you can be growing like crazy. You can pay for likes and followers, right? But it doesn't matter if you're not truly, actually giving that, again, that impact. So the outcome around it, showing up, thinking about what is the, how many shares you get on a post or something, what does that actually look like for you instead of it just being a number?
True. So I provide the education, for, letting them know these exact things. This is not what we're going for. It doesn't matter that you've got the 10,000. Here's what we want. We want those connections, because that connection is your lead, and what you do with it after you get that lead and I give it to you, what are you going to do with it? So there's some responsibility on their part, but once they understand, so it's the whole education, the whole coaching about it, understanding how social media works. It's not, regular marketing,
That's right.
So it's really getting, having them understand the purpose of social media and how slowly it does work, and, really having them be educated on how the process actually works and why it works.
And just to add on what Sierra was saying earlier, I think it's important to emphasize to anyone who's using social media, if you're coaching or just educating, that in reality, you have control over your intentions, but you do not have control over the outcomes. Mm-hmm. And I think so many people are so focused on that outcome or that goal that they forget about what they're doing, in between. Mm-hmm. And we need to shift on our focus and our control on our intentions. And I think that's what's most important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that. And for me, when I'm working with my clients, it's really teaching them to create content that's going to help them build those emotional connections and build relationships that will then turn into either clients or referral sources. And then using these platforms as a way to become the authority in their space, to really show their expertise while they're building those relationships.
Nice. Yeah. Mel, do you have any advice you'd give to clients?
Me and Robyn were always so on the same page. Basically the same thing. Just, being yourself and, standing out as the expert in your industry by, sharing your knowledge. Really.
So
I don't look at numbers, so there's no way I can teach that to my clients.
So just we're kind of coming to the end here, what I would just want to say is any sort of healthy habits that you would want to send our listeners with, how they can protect their energy, how can they protect their boundaries? Is there any one strategy or tactic that you use as it comes to social media and being on the different platforms? Anybody? Sierra, do you have anything that one little piece of advice you'd give people?
I think it's about making sure that you're bringing the right people into your life. I think it needs to be shared. We all met through social media, right? This beautiful sisterhood here met through the power of social media. Mm-hmm. And there are other women that I've met in my life and we've ended up meeting in real life and, bringing that energy in as well. But really making sure you're connecting with the right people and you're spending your time just as if you were to invite people over for dinner, right? You're not going to invite anybody you don't like. So don't spend the time consuming their content. Don't follow them if they trigger you. Don't, put yourself in the situations that you don't need to be in. Put yourself in the situations that light you up, that raise your vibration, because that's then how you can also grow your business too when you're in that higher state of vibration.
Cool. Mel, do you have any advice you would give anybody?
Well, just setting your boundaries and really sticking with it. Mm-hmm. When it doesn't feel good, I would say, a little bit like Sarah was saying earlier, listening to your body and listening to your feelings. If things are not making you feel great, then don't do it. And then if you're at a point where it's consuming you so much that you feel like you're so alone, then maybe it's time for you to reach out to someone and actually, get help. And that's totally fine to do as well. But yeah, setting up boundaries and sticking to them.
Cool. Allison.
I think as just I think a lot of us are just so multi-passionate for so much in this world that we are over-consumed and overwhelmed with what do we do? So what I have found to be helpful is just choose one tiny change and then start putting those tiny changes together and you'll get some remarkable results. So it's really just asking yourself, does this feel good to me? Does it feel aligned to me? And just start making tiny little changes because, social media is here to stay. I think it's not going anywhere. So you're not going to make overnight changes just like that. It's making tiny little changes, creating tiny little habits. And I think, making that shift in your home and having everyone in your home on board with it, that's where you're going to see the results that you want.
That's really good advice. Sandie.
I am really going to go back to the whole self-worth thing. We really need to find, the greatness in us. If we are, comparing ourselves, if we are doing all that stuff, then we don't know how great we really are. We were created to be the way that we are, whether it resonates with everyone or no one, it doesn't matter. This is who we are. And we need to really, buy into the fact that we are who we are and stick with that. I love everything that Sierra said, just really creating your space, really making your life the way it is. I do like to, I love social media. I love the power of it. I really, really do. I find it intriguing and it's so awesome. You know, I started way back in 2015, which maybe more of you guys were longer than that, but I have relationships online still to this day, but a lot of them I've been able to really, let's get together. You know what I'm saying? And so I have met tons of people from online in real life, whether they've been visiting or I've been somewhere and we connected, you know, it's just, so I like to make sure that, especially if I'm connecting a lot more locally, you know, to where I live, I will meet with these people. Mask on and everything. But, you know, like if we can do it, we can do it. I do really like that in real life. I thrive off of that as an extrovert, you know, but the power of social media and using it positively is amazing. And I don't know, I think like, yay, it's not going away. But at the same time, I understand the problem and we do have to set our boundaries.
Cool. Robyn.
Gosh, I mean, you all said that so well that I'm not sure what I have to add other than use it for good, for the good of others, but for the good of yourself as well. And if it becomes something that is weighing on you from a negative, in a negative way, or, you know, causing you any angst whatsoever, step away from it. But setting those boundaries are going to be key, and then using it to become that authority and expert in your area of expertise or your niche, so that you can grow your business using it, but you're doing it in a way that is truly authentic to you and not comparing yourself to others or trying to follow the footsteps of others, because you're on your path and the path that you're meant to be on and not theirs. And the grass is never greener on the other side.
Mm-hmm.
You're right. You're right. It's so important. Well, ladies, thank you so much. First off, for being my social media besties. We've been in a group together for, has it been 2 years? Soon?
I think so.
I think so.
Is that true? Oh my gosh.
God.
Isn't that crazy? But you guys have been amazing. Thank you for being here, for your candor, and for being so transparent and open, because there is some sensitive topics there and we all have our own opinions. And that's why I appreciate you ladies so much, because we can be honest and say what we think and have our opinions and, you know, and just be able to talk about it. So I really appreciate you guys agreeing to doing this with me. And we are going to meet in real life. For those of you guys who don't, for those of you who are listening to us, just really quickly, I want to go around the room real quick. Everybody just tell them where you're from. Mel, we'll start with you.
Where I'm from?
Yeah. Like, where do you live? Like, we're spread out.
I'm in Ottawa, Canada.
And Allison?
I'm in Illinois.
And Sandie?
I'm in Arizona.
And Sierra?
I'm in Pennsylvania.
And Robyn?
I'm in Pennsylvania, but I also am from Jupiter now too. Florida.
She's in Florida. She came down to Florida. So Robyn and I have this master plan. The next time she's in Florida, we're going to meet. So I can't wait for that. So anyways, but post-COVID, we need to get together for sure.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks again, ladies, for being here today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Hey there, I just want to say thank you for spending time with me here today. I know your time is super valuable, which is why I am dedicated to providing lots of usable, actionable information in the shortest amount of time possible. Before you go, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a future episode. And if you have ideas or topics you would like me to cover in an upcoming show, let me know about it in the comment section provided.